So I'm not fully up on it. But one person that's doing a great job. I mean, we know, My Lost Interest,
Oh, sure.
there's this guy, Stolly 19. He's been clipping stuff. All these people are clipping stuff from his show. Will Heron, our pal Will
Oh,
Heron,
yeah. I love Will.
he's putting together some stuff. So I want to play a little of this, and this is from.
There was another that reminds me, the conservative or the liberal going conservative grift. Has anyone been following this Whitney Cummings thing? So apparently Whitney Cummings has been having some issues with her Democratic past, and people think she's starting to turn right wing, and she's really not denying it. She's kind of said like things have changed for her. She's got a new perspective. She's dissatisfied. She's disillusioned with her old political, home, I guess you could say. Well, I want to see if I can find this. When it comes to the case of Whitney Cummings, there's an argument amongst people about whether or not Whitney Cummings should be like welcomed in as a right winger, or if she should be shunned and it's too little too late, and this, that, and the other thing. I don't know. I've always been of the opinion that better late than never. I got a lot of shit during COVID for that, because they'd turn on the vaccine or they'd turn on the lockdowns and they'd say, these are bullshit, this is terrible. And I would say, hey, that's great, awesome, thanks for joining this side. And people would write into the show, or they'd call into the show and they'd go, no, Aaron, these people, they wanted us locked down. They wanted to force us to take the vaccine for everyone who looks like them. And I went, well, okay. I mean, that might feel good for a minute to be that emotionally knee-jerk, but at the same time, you have that kind of attitude, you're never going to grow, your sphere of influence. You're just going to be talking to the same 15 people all the time, because you're not going to welcome any new people in. I think it takes a lot of balls to say, I was wrong, I've changed my opinion. I think that should be respected. I think that should be rewarded. So with this Whitney Cummings thing, I think that Whitney Cummings should be welcomed in, and people should go, hey, you admitted you were wrong. That's really tough. Really, I really like the cut of your jib now. I saw that Chrissie Mayr was getting a lot of shit on Twitter because, and far be it from me, because I don't dislike Christy. I think she's been she said a couple of things about me while she's been sweeping for Nick that, I don't know, it make me, maybe not like her very much, but and not feel sorry for her, but it's kind of like Chrissy and Frank both seem like all of their moves are kind of calculated. Like there's a genuineness missing. Like a lot of times those of us with a show will run our fucking mouths and we'll just say some shit. And, you just deal with it later. And people will be like, well, what did you mean by that? And you're like, I don't. Like people think that everyone has to have an agenda like it's Game of Thrones. Sometimes I just run my mouth and I say some shit and people go later, they go, what'd you mean by that? And I go, I don't remember saying it. Holy shit. Let me go back and look. We're just flying off the handle. We're running a talk show. A lot of times when Chrissy says or does shit, it sounds like there's a group she wants to kind of get into, or there's a hot take that she wants to brand as her own. I don't. It all seems very complicated, or calculated, and very astroturfy. And that's how this Whitney Cummings thing felt. She went after Whitney Cummings and said it's too little, too late for Whitney Cummings. She wanted vax cards in her audience, and she didn't stand up against vaccine mandates and all this blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, but she's admitting she was wrong, and she's saying different things now. Too little, too late. It's like, first of all, hold your horses, pump your brakes. You're not the arbiter of too little, too late. You don't get to measure that. You're not the queen of vaccine denial or whatever, or vaccine hesitancy. That's not, Ben Shapiro's the queen of that. Just kidding. Ben endorsed the vaccine. But then, the thing that really kind of weirds me out, of Chrissie Mayr calling out Whitney Cummings and saying, oh, you were so far lefty and now you're going to try this right-wing shit. Bullshit. It's too little, too late. Chrissie Mayr, I don't know if she realizes this, but people have a history. People have Twitter. They can go back and look. The internet is forever. You are so not the person to make this argument because you were a lefty, feminist, pro-LGBTQ, lefty before you got on Compound and met Anthony and, could start making kind of these, the right-wing news a little bit. So, I mean, it rings kind of hollow, you saying Whitney Cummings, too little, too late. Of anybody, Chrissie Mayr should be the one welcoming her with open arms because, the way Chrissy could be playing this is Whitney Cummings is playing from the Chrissie Mayr playbook. They did exactly the same thing. Maybe Chrissy's embarrassed by her political past. I don't know. And that's why she's going after Whitney Cummings now because she sees a lot of herself in her. I don't think there's anything like people have attacked Chrissy for being a phony and a grifter and fake right wing and a hypocrite and all this stuff. I've never done that because I think better late than never. Adults are allowed to change their mind. But you don't get to change your mind and then slam the shit out of somebody because they did exactly the same thing you did. So this idea that Chrissie Mayr gets to go out now and go, oh, well, it's too little, too late for Whitney Cummings. You don't get to make that distinction. You did the same thing she did. It's allowed. You can do that. It makes it sound like you're just grifting off the Whitney Cummings thing. You're trying to get eyeballs off of Whitney Cummings with just absolutely no sense of canon, no sense of history on this whole deal. It struck me as really weird. Even Louis J. Gomez called her out. Louis J. Gomez was on Twitter and going, when I met you, you were hosting fucking shows for comics for LGBTQ, and you were a flaming liberal and a Hillary Clinton supporter and all of this shit. And it's like, that's okay. You'll get sympathy for being that and then changing, but you can't then go and shit on other people for doing the same exact thing. Again, it reeks of, before I have my opinion, I'm going to figure out what I can get out of the opinion. And that's going to hit some people as dishonest, and you can't blame them for having that take. Because it all seems very calculated. And when you have a passionate take and it seems calculated, it looks gross to people. That's all. S-word jockey, I'm sorry, YouTube, with $5. Says, Chrissy is sweeping for Nick. How long will he ride that horse? Oh, see, now horse jokes. Now, see, we can't get into the Whitney Cummings and the validity of the argument. $5 from Will Heron says, thanks for the content. Thank you, Will, and thank you for your clips. They're very good. I watch them from time to time.